Let's head into the papers now, see what the headlines are across Nigeria. And I won't be doing this alone. I have my colleague with me. Veronica is on the stand right now with me.
It's good to be here with you, Mike.
Exactly.
And we have our in-house analyst here, Obani Akwale, joining
Obani,
us.
nice to have you join us, really. All right, good. Let's begin with the Daily Times. That's where we start from this morning. Daily Times is saying that Senate dismisses outcry over 5.5 billion naira for purchase of vehicles as funds captured in 125 billion naira National Assembly budget. And public outcry unnecessary, insulting. Senator Abdullahi is saying this. And that's what you see on the front page of the Daily Times. Then let's see, before I go to Veronica now, let's see what the next headline is. Daily Trust is the next one now. Daily Trust says, Buhari fires Oyoita, extends tenure of 7 permanent secretaries. Yemi Esan now acting head of service. Reps may probe extension. That is what you see on the front page of the Daily Trust. Veronica has the rest there. All
right, so let's move to the front page of the Blueprint. Now, Party Advisory Council to Federal Government and the National Assembly. Only INEC should conduct polls. Wants SIEC, that's State Independent Electoral Commissions, to be scrapped. And then we'll move to the News Direct. Alleged 3 billion naira contract scam. Buhari replaces Oyoita with Yemi Esan as acting HOS as the EFCC sets to commence investigation. Well, we'll be looking at this story on the front page of the Blueprint. Party Advisory Council talking to the federal government and the National Assembly that only INEC should conduct polls and seeking the scrapping of the State Independent Electoral Commission. What do you make of this? This issue has been on the front burner for some time now, and it is coming from the Party Advisory Council. You think is what the National Assembly will agree to?
I think if we're not careful in this country, politicians will destroy this country. We are all fighting for decentralization. We are all looking at ensuring that the federal level is decongested, so to say, and also to ensure that we enshrine the true spirit of the constitutions that allow every tier of government to manage itself. If IPAC is saying there are too many interference from federal government and now states being run, let's look at the case of Kogi, Bauchi and Edo, where the Federal Court has said the National Assembly doesn't have that power now to interfere in how they run their affairs. Now, if IPAC, supposedly to be an inter-party agency, is now asking the National Electoral Commission to take over responsibility that the Constitution has allowed the state to have their own independent electoral commissions, it calls more to that. For example, let's look at some of the states, what they are trying to do now in the nation in terms of the ward, the local government, the LCD, and what have you, to ensure that there is proper governance. And if IPAC will now be asking federal government, the national government, to conduct a national election, where you and I knows that even to conduct the general national election is a bit difficult. Now to conduct word by word and what have you, I feel it is a disservice to the country.
But on the other hand, a lot of people have said that INEC, you find INEC in all the states, for instance. Absolutely. They have state offices, they have even local government offices, depending on, how you want to see it. So, in a case where a local government election is conducted, and the party in power seem to take everything. You see, there's too much interference from state governments. That's part of their fears.
I seem to disagree with the notion that when you have elections, the party in power used to take over. One of the problems we have is that politicians don't trust in their power. I'll give you in 1996, there was only one councillor for Democratic Party of Nigeria, DPN. And there was only one person from House of Rep. That's Honorable Gbenga Onigbogi from Malaysia, Federal Constituency. What we have always found out is that we have crop that are bandwagons. If you begin to believe yourself, even within this environment, you discover that during the Lagos State local government election, you have a couple of wards that are won with relatively unknown party. Remember, even the Federal House of Representatives election in Lagos State, there's one honorable called Honorable Kakware, who won with the Federal Constituency on the platform of another party. So, a court party. And you look at Oyo State. You have a couple of guys that won on platform of PDP, on APC, on ACD, and what have you. So what I've always found out is that we have a crop of lazy politicians, and we have a crop of some over-bloated politicians that feels that, oh, I'm in the newspaper. Look at, for example, that Malami additional. When he was in Haiti, he tested his power, he won. When he moved to whatever party he moved, ADC, he was defeated. And so most times the problem we have is that we always overrate these politicians. Some of them don't exist. They only exist on the and that's why they normally kill or maim to ensure that they get the ticket of main political parties. Otherwise, if you know you have that, look at Showore. Showore won the local government hands down. So if Showore has presented a candidate or presented himself as a rep for, let's say, Ondo, the local government as House of Rep, he will have won hands down. Look at Ifeanyi Uba. Ifeanyi Uba won the senatorial ticket in Anambra State. So you have a couple of guys that they are not in the mainstream party, but they show that they have the word. So it is not enough to say that, oh, the major parties in party, why don't you start from where you have power?
But then, perhaps what they are trying to do is to rule out interference, so to speak. But then, even if the INEC is to take over these places and take over the state's elections, are we saying that that will totally rule out interference?
Exactly. If INEC was one that conducted Buhari Atiku election and there was a observer, if there is over 1,000 cases that INEC is prosecuting in courts for parties, either House of Rep, House of Assembly, you could look at what's happening in Edo State. All the House of Rep are being contested. Look at Ekiti. There is House of Rep issues there. Look at Oyo. Look at Ogun around us there. The elections were contested between two main political gladiators, and yet, even when you say main parties, in Ogun State, for example, you have APM, APC, PDP, and what have you. And everybody put their weight, and they all have it in the parliament. So if INEC even conduct, you will still go to court. So there is no difference. It's just the parliament that need to change their mentality. And
so it's about the conduct, really, not about the agency phase.
At all.
It's about the conduct, the transparency, the openness.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's not about the political parties, it's about the political actors themselves. And even IPAC, for me, I want to just be modest enough to say that they are a problem to the system.
Why would you say that?
That's a new
you
discussion
remember there was a
altogether.
cup of tea before the national election, and they are member of IPAC. If IPACs are supposed to be inter-party agencies, you don't have a COP, coalition of united political parties, and what have you. So,
all right, we have to leave you here now. Obani Akinwale, thank you very much for your insight into this. Thank you very much.
Well, it's time to take a look at stories making the headlines in Nigerian newspapers. I have with me in the studio Obani Akinwale, our in-house analyst, and Dr. Dan Ekere, lecturer from the University of Lagos. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigerians.
All right, let's head straight to the papers now, and I begin with the News Direct. Alleged 3 billion naira contract scam. Buhari replaces Oyoita with Yemi Eson as acting HOS, as EFCC sets to commence investigation. And same story is on the front page of the Daily Trust. Buhari fires Oyoita, extends tenure of 7 perm sex. Yemi Eson now acting HOS, reps may prove extension. To the front page of the Blueprint. IPAC to federal government, National Assembly, only INEC should conduct polls, want CX scrapped. On the front page of the Daily Times, Senate dismisses outcry over 5.5 billion naira for purchase of vehicles, says funds captured in 125 billion naira NAS budget. Public outcry unnecessary, insulting Senator Abdullahi. To the front page of the Vanguard, uproar over 5.5 billion naira for Aka's insulting Senate leader. Adds criticism of 5.5 billion naira vehicle purchase nonsensical, insulting, mischievous. Says money for cars part of National Assembly's 125 billion naira 2019 budget. Insists senators work harder than ministers who move in convoys of 4 SUVs. Serap Kakol or Shuntokun, CDHR react. On the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, corruption allegation, Buhari suspends Oyoita, names Yemi Eson, acting head of service. And finally, on the front page of the Nation newspaper, $9.6 billion judgment, House summons Malami, Sylva, ministers to face 17-man panel. It exposes a deep decay in our governance. All right, gentlemen, we'll be looking at this story on the front page of the Nation newspaper this morning. The National Assembly, or the House rather, is summoning the SGF to the Attorney General of the Federation to come talk to them about this issue on the 9.6 PNIB judgments. And I wonder, what do you make of this, Dr. Ekere? How do you see this panning out?
Well, you know, the issue has been in the news, and I mean, I've listened to the Minister of Justice too, talking about, Attorney General talking about, you know, how he suspects some accomplices and all of that, and you know, people will be brought to book and all. Now, there's someone. I think that will reveal so many other things.
You think it would reveal?
What is the whole idea of, you know,
summoning?
Yes, is to find out what perhaps had gone into this. But again, I'm even wondering that we could get to a point of, you know, this body, PNIB, obtaining judgment of this kind, as if these people were not there. I was just wondering whether they went to court without, you know, Nigeria participating.
But the plan is to negotiate.
Yeah, but where have they been all this while? This same attitude we have always had in government, as if government is God, you know, that nothing can ever happen. Why are we jittery over this?
We shouldn't be.
But so that is why I'm wondering. So if you know that the thing is that kind of a thing that could, you know, put you in this position, why did you address it the way it should have been addressed before now? Why is it now you want to go into negotiation? Why did you do all of that? Are you telling me that these people sneaked to the court without you knowing? Were you not served? Were you not represented? So how did you get to the point of, you know...
The argument is that it wasn't this administration that handled all of this. Government is meant to be a continuum.
That is the weakest argument you can ever present. The monies they be spending, did they take money from the previous administration? The Asura, was it this one that built it? They be using facilities. So government is about both, you know, assets and liabilities. You can't be talking about this is not part of this is not part of that. You met it is part of, that is why you are there. You should address whatever pertains to government as, you know, a government official. So somebody's office is responsible for this. And to begin to hear that, oh, we are going to call this, we are going to do this as the Attorney General, I expect that he should be the first person to be dealt with on this issue. Because
really?
Who is the government lawyer? Who is the government attorney? Who is the one who represents? So his office must be aware of this. That's the point I'm making. So for you to begin to, you know, lay blames on somebody, the first thing is that you should take responsibility. Because I expect that you would have been properly represented at the court, whatever this is. So if you now recognize that this thing could go this way, what stops you from saying, okay, come, let's talk? What is the issue really?
That's what I said.
That's what I'm saying. That is even
wants
coming too late.
Negotiate. It's coming too late.
It's coming too late.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
Is the negotiation coming too late?
I'm not sure these people started with litigation.
What I would rather say is that I'm totally disappointed in the National Assembly asking for the Minister of Justice and Nigerian Federation to come and see them.
Really?
First of all, I'm aware that about 50% of these current National Assembly members have been in National Assembly since 2003 up to date.
Absolutely.
I'm aware that the National Assembly has the oversight function over the federal agencies and MDAs. I'm aware that there's a Chairman House Committee on Judiciary also for Senate. I'm also aware that there's Chairman House Committee on Petroleum, Mines and Steel and what have you. And one of the responsibilities is to see what the budget or the plans of each ministries are. It's so disheartening that the current head of the lower assembly, the House of Rep, is a former majority and minority leader of the National Assembly, which gives us an impression that House of Reps, which gives us that he's fully involved as a principal officer in the National Assembly. Now, there is no way this will have been happening for almost 8 to 9 years, serving as minority leader for 4 years, serving as majority leader for 4 years. That is 8 good years. The likes of Namdas as the principal officers in the National Assembly. So there is no way National Assembly wants to claim ignorance if we elected them to do the oversight functions.
So it is of no use calling
this is just, like I see, just for me, it's absolute waste of time. Because there's an injunction from another government, there is sovereignty, and what have you, that is either we obey the law, If we disobey the law, we know the consequence. So the Nigerian government or National Assembly, for me, is just crying after a spilled milk. The deed has been done. You didn't carry out your responsibilities.
Perhaps it's in the process of cleaning the
What are they
milk.
cleaning? What has not been cleaned before now? What are you going to clean when you are part of the system? Don't forget that this deal was signed by Jonathan administration.
Absolutely.
And two-thirds of the guys in the National Assembly now, especially House of Rep, they are members and part and parcel of the National Assembly.
This will expose the more,
like
they said.
What it means is that,
expose the
what it
decay
means
in
is that we have been
governance.
funding and we have been paying about 366 guys for over 8 years doing nothing. Because what they tell us is that they want to buy that, they have this budget because they have an oversight function to do check and balance on the executives.
For which
and if you have not been doing this, then it shows that we don't necessarily need you. So you now coming to tell us that you want to hear what you're supposed to have had over 8 years ago, and you don't want to hear it in 2019. Nigeria need to ask ourselves, do we really need the National Assembly? If we are going to ask now, and you have people that are, so you are supposed to invite all those chairmen of various committees that are in charge of those deals. What are the information you have? Check your records. You are now coming to declare, maybe for newspapers purposes or for TV purposes, and say you want to come and invite Malami. Where were you 8 years ago? Where were you 4 years ago? Again,
interesting questions.
You travel far and wide, you travel abroad and what have you. What have you done to stem this thing coming to fruition? Again, don't forget, most of them are national assemblies, and the principal officers are also lawyers.
Absolutely.
So, and when you...
They know what the law is.
You know
No, they might not know. They might not know. No, they might not know. Some of them have never practiced law for a long time.
Don't forget the speaker also practiced law in the US. So they should be familiar with international law.
They should be familiar with international
law. If you know that, you know what... And most of the judgments said, with you review the weekly law review of so, the judgment has been passed and what have you. So you know the consequence of these actions. Even if they don't know law, they go to open universities and study law from there. So a lot of things that you ask yourself that they are just, it's just comical for them.
So this is just ceremonial?
Not even ceremonial. It's actually a waste of time or waste of public funds. That's just it.
So don't forget that hearing monies will be spent.
Yeah.
For this.
For
yes,
hearing.
now people will drink tea.
See, but my real worry is that this is not an overnight stuff.
Absolutely.
Are you getting it?
Absolutely.
So how did you get to this point of, this group or this body obtaining a judgment, and it's after the judgment you now realize that you want to engage.
Someone, yes.
Are you getting it? So you should have done your due diligence. If you are properly represented. This was how we handled the Bakassi stuff the other time. Even when we had a chance not to even go into
our
that.
handling of issues is a challenge.
So it's really shocking that we could get to that point that somebody will just come and slam the judgment on us over things that we should have been able to take care of. I think it's really worrisome.
And we're always big brother. We always concede.
Dr. Kerry, Mr. Akinwale, thank you for your time on TVC Breakfast. You're watching TVC Breakfast, and we're streaming live on YouTube. You can connect with us on Twitter using the hashtag TVC Breakfast.
Let's head into the papers now, see what the headlines are this morning. I have with me in the studio Obani Akinwale as well as Dr. Dana Kerry from the University of Lagos. Gentlemen, it's nice to see you both.
Thanks. It's good to see you again.
All right. Let's start with News Direct this morning on the headlines. News Direct says alleged 3 billion naira contract scam. Buhari replaces Oyoita with Yemi Eson as acting head of service as EFCC sets to commence investigation. Let's find that on the News Direct. Then let's go to Daily Trust. Daily Trust now says Buhari fires Oyoita, extends tenure of 7 permanent secretaries. Yemi Eson now acting head of service. Reps may probe extension. All right, that's what Daily Trust has. Okay, from there, let's go to the Blueprint now. Blueprint says IPAC to federal government and National Assembly, only INEC should conduct polls. Want state independent electoral commissions scrapped. Okay, we talked about that earlier on. That's what you see there at the Blueprint. Moving ahead to the Daily Times. The Daily Times says Senate dismisses outcry over 5.5 billion naira for purchase of vehicles. Says funds captured in 125 billion naira National Assembly budget. A public outcry unnecessary, insulting. Senator Abdullahi is quoted as saying this. That's what you see on the Daily Times. Okay, Vanguard is the next one now, and it says uproar over 5.5 billion naira for our cars, insulting. A Senate leader is saying this, and adds criticism of 5.5 billion naira vehicle purchase nonsensical, insulting, mischievous. It says money for cars, part of National Assembly 125 billion naira 2019 budget, and insists senators work harder than ministers who move in convoys of 4 SUVs. All right, Serap, Kakol, or Shuntokun, CDHR, all of them are reacting to this. Okay, I guess we'll talk about this in a few minutes. Let's move now to the Nigerian Tribune. And it dwells on corruption allegation. Buhari suspends Oyeta, names Yemi Eson acting head of service. Okay, that's what you see there now. Moving from there to the Nation newspaper, which is the last paper for this morning. A $9.6 billion judgment. House summons Malami and Sylva, that's the ministers of Justice and Petroleum State. Ministers to face 17-man panel, and he exposes a deep decay in our governance. All right, those are all perspectives to this issue. Gentlemen, let's, this is quite interesting, and some will see it as concerning, others will see it as interesting for the headlines on the Daily Times and Vanguard. Okay, Vanguard, let me read what the Senate leader is quoted as saying here. Criticism of 5.5 billion naira vehicle purchases is nonsensical, insulting, and mischievous. I'd like to start with you, Obani, on this. I wonder what you make of this, because they said that this money is already captured in the 125 billion naira National Assembly budget. So why is there an outcry when the budget has been, they're working within the budget of what has been approved?
It's so unfortunate if truly the words from the Senate leader is what was captured by the newspaper. A couple of months ago, we see the garage of the distinguished anti-corruption network ambassador in person of Senator Dino Melaye with a number of luxurious cars and whatever he has in his garage. And by my understandings, vehicles are supposed to be means of transportation. And if Senator Dino Melaye served in the National Assembly for 4 years and he was allocated a portion of 5.5 billion to buy car, in his garage he has close to about 6 to 8 luxurious cars, outside power bikes. Now the same senator does not have another means of transportation. From between January and May, there was a means. Now from May to December, there is another means. It shows that we have crop of jokers at the National Assembly. That is one. Two, if the National Assembly can even come again and tell us that 125 billion out of the budget is for just over 108 members, it's a disservice to entire Nigeria. And just look at what happened to Senator Kuremadu in Germany.
In Germany.
I'm afraid, like Senator Dimulai rightly said, that very soon the children of the poor will be chasing them to their house. It's absurd. Let's ask ourselves, what is the monthly remuneration of these guys? They are paid more than any CEO that you could ever think of, maybe except for banks or oil companies. And yet, they do next to nothing. These are guys that have been on recess after their inauguration and are just coming back. Mike, but
the Senate leader said they are working harder than ministers.
It's insulting us. If the ministers are using convoys of cars, is that right? So it means that if the ministers started having chartered planes at every ministry, because the senators are working more than the ministers, the senators will now start having chartered jets parked in front of National Assembly.
So there shouldn't be the comparison.
Our sensibilities, and it's so disheartening that we have this crop of guys saying they cannot make any law. The only law we have in this country is for law for their pocket, law to enrich them, law to improvise Nigeria. One minute, please. Okay. How do you even imagine that the National Assembly is budgeting to buy Toyota SUV at 5.5 billion? Now, let's look at the chain. Marketing for Toyota, that is good. But if you invest that 5.5 billion into the auto business in Nigeria, when you are going to create jobs, so all this we are looking for VAT, looking for bank deposit, would have come because 0.5 billion into there. So all what they are removing from you and I, they will have been able to remove from all these wastages that we have. It's so disheartening. And they stop insulting us.
Dr. Kere, If a lot of people say that the National Assembly members are not working hard,
they are not working at all. They are not working hard.
Would that be fair? Because one way or the other, they are the ones who we have elected. One way or the other, you have a representative from your place, one from the State House of Assembly to House of Reps to the Senate and all of that.
Why are you looking for trouble?
Okay, sorry.
So is he representing me? That should be the issue. Does he know me? Have I met him?
But does he have to know?
Does he hold
meetings?
Does
he hold meeting with me?
So, which means he's not representing me if he doesn't know me. Now, does he know
he got the mandate, legitimate mandate.
What do you call mandate? What is the total number of votes Buhari got? Is it more than 15, 16 million? What's the population of Nigeria? But today he's now speaking for Nigeria. And you say he's representing Nigeria.
Yeah, but that's why we say those who didn't decide their votes to be counted or to be cut.
Those who voted for Atiku, is he not representing them now? So what are we talking about? So you see, the challenge is that let's not go into all of that. Let's look at the issue of this 5.5 billion naira to buy cars. And among these cars are SUVs and the rest, which they already have. Now, and they do this every time. The ones they bought in the time past, where are the cars? Where are the cars? And again, you are telling us that this thing is captured. The argument
of the office.
The major argument the Senate leader also is canvassing is that this thing is nonsensical because it's already captured in the budget.
And has been approved.
And has been approved.
So it's even law.
Now, yes.
And they approve it.
For them not to even buy the cars is a violation of the law.
It's not. It's not at all. Okay, what about the things that they don't even implement the budget 100%? Has it been considered a violation? So is it the cars that they don't buy that will be a violation? And in any case, why must you even capture this in the budget? Do you need it? So if capturing it in the budget is now your justification, I am now saying that if the mere fact that you will propose it is evil enough. All right? So to begin to think of, because it has been approved, then you must, this is wastage, for God's sake. This is wastage. They have enough vehicles. And in any case, there should be pool cars like every other company runs. Not that you buy this SUV for this today, then the next one will call you buy the same. Every time you keep buying this, and you are budgeting 120 billion naira to do what now? To do oversight that eventually will be charged 9.something billion
members
naira.
Who have returned and returned over again.
We keep buying.
You keep buying.
We keep giving them houses.
So this is a challenge. And they do oversight. One of the oversights is what we discussed a while ago, that they did and did very well to the point that Nigeria is now being charged $9.6 billion. Are you getting it? These are the kind of things we hear. I expect that they should show leadership. All right? They should be able to show leadership. To the extent that you say, okay, Nigeria is facing, because if we have enough, why are you increasing VAT? Is it not to raise more funds? Now you want to waste. We saw Boris Johnson. Our legislators bigger than the Prime Minister. All right? We saw even the brother, when he left, the day he was talking about resignation and all of that, we saw how he left the place in bicycle. We saw Boris Johnson himself. What was his entourage? Just 3 vehicles, 3 motorbikes. Here, you find councillors who will go with convoy. And you are not using that as a justification to even propose 5. That is the most ridiculous argument a senator should present. That because it is contained in the budget that is already approved, that you even presented this kind of budget shows your level of reasoning. It shows your level of, what do you call it? What I can call, how do I describe it now? The kind of attitude you have towards the country you are serving.
A lot of people say
if you are serving a state that is suffering from hardship, you should not make it worse.
All right. We have to leave you here now. I know Obani is itching to say something.
No, it's annoying.
We don't have all the time.
That is if those statements were actually made by him.
Okay. Let us assume so, so that before anybody is quoted out of context here. Dr. Daniel Kere, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Obani Akinwale, thank you for coming as well. Thank you.
It's always a pleasure.
Right. You're watching TVC Breakfast, and we are streaming live on YouTube. You can connect with us on Twitter using the hashtag TVC Breakfast. And still to come on the show, women are usually at the forefront of humanitarian responses, working for the survival and well-being of people in crisis. We'll be looking at their efforts so far. And calls for enlightenment campaigns on the importance of using pedestrian bridges to prevent needless loss of lives on the highway. That is also on the focus.